You've stood in the pet food aisle, read the label, seen the words, salmon, joint support, immune health, and felt like a good dog owner for choosing it, and you are. But here's what nobody on that packaging ever told you: your dog's body can barely use most of what's in that bag. The salmon flavoring isn't salmon. The joint support doesn't contain what their cartilage actually needs. And that turmeric supplement you spent $40 on? Useless, unless you know the one ingredient that makes it work, and it costs almost nothing. Meanwhile, the foods that genuinely protect your dog's heart, slow their cognitive decline, and rebuild their gut from the inside out are already sitting in your kitchen. You've probably even tossed some to your dog as a snack without knowing what you were accidentally doing right. In this video, I'm going to show you 11 of them, what they actually do, why the science backs it up, and exactly how to add them to your dog's routine this week. No overhaul, no expensive products, just what works. If this is your first time here, welcome to Poft Living, where we discuss everything about dogs. Like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can be the first to see our videos. Let's start with something most owners never question, because the pet food industry has spent decades making sure you don't. You've bought the salmon kibble, maybe the grain-free version, the senior formula, the one with the golden retriever on the front, looking vital and glossy coated. You chose it because it said salmon, because it said omega-3s, because it said joint support right there on the bag. And honestly, that was a reasonable thing to trust. But here's what the label never told you. Food number 1, sardines and salmon. Salmon flavoring is not salmon. It's a chemical compound designed to smell and taste like salmon. Delivers almost none of what real salmon delivers to your dog's body, and the difference between those two things isn't cosmetic, it's biological. It's the difference between what your dog cells actually need and what they've been receiving for years while you assumed the gap was covered.
Real salmon.
Plain, cooked, no seasoning, no bones, contains EPA and DHA, the omega-3 fatty acids that work at the cellular membrane level. A landmark study from the Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine found that dogs supplemented with EPA and DHA from whole fish sources showed to measurable improvements in heart function, coat density, and systemic inflammatory markers within 90 days. Not months of slow guessing, 90 days. 2 small servings a week. Every major system responding because the body finally received the real input it had been waiting for. And the same principle applies to the fish oil capsule sitting on your counter right now. Researchers found that omega-3 fatty acids from whole fish sources reduced joint inflammation by up to 38% over just 12 weeks. But that result came from whole food, not capsules. Your dog's gut absorbs nutrients from real food in a fundamentally different way than it processes an encapsulated oil. The bioavailability gap is real, it's significant, and it's why so many owners try fish oil for months, notice nothing dramatic, and quietly move on. The capsule wasn't the problem. The form was. So here's the practical shift. 1 small sardine packed in water, not oil, not sauce, just water, twice a week. A palm-sized piece of plain cooked salmon, no flavoring, no skin, twice a week. That's the gap between what your dog's body has been asking for and what the label led you to believe it was getting. It's not your fault for trusting the packaging, but now you know. And while we're talking about what the body can actually use versus what it's been given, let's talk about protein, because this one might genuinely surprise you. Food number 2, eggs. You've probably always felt reassured when a dog food bag leads with high protein. It sounds like the right thing. Stock protein equals muscle, strength, vitality, and if the bag promises it, the bowl must be delivering it. Most owners carry this belief completely unchallenged for the entirety of their dog's life. And it's one of the quieter nutritional failures in modern pet feeding. Not all proteins are created equal, and the measurement that actually matters isn't quantity, it's biological value. Biological value tells you how much of a protein source a body can absorb and convert into usable amino acids. At the very top of that scale sits the egg. A study from the American Journal of Veterinary Research confirmed that high biological value proteins like eggs directly support muscle retention in Stockyaging dogs. And muscle retention is not a cosmetic issue. When a dog begins losing muscle mass, it doesn't happen in isolation. Joints lose their primary support structure. Metabolic function slows. The immune system loses one of its key regulatory systems. The organ function becomes less efficient across the board. The dog that used to leap onto the sofa and now needs a moment to gather herself, that's often not just age. That's the beginning of a muscle cascade that whole food protein could have been slowing for years. 1 egg, 3 times a week. Scrambled with no butter, no seasoning, or lightly hard-boiled. The yolk specifically delivers vitamin D, choline, nutrients that most commercial dog foods are genuinely deficient in and that most owners have never once thought to check for. The answer has been sitting in your refrigerator the whole time, and it costs almost nothing to add. Food number 3, plain yogurt. Now here's the one that changes how you think about a problem you've probably been treating for years without ever solving it. If your dog has recurring skin issues, the kind that flare up, get treated, settle down, and then come back 3 months later, you've almost certainly been having the same conversation on repeat. Medicated shampoo, antihistamines, a vet visit, a prescription, a bill, and then quietly the same itching returns, the same hot spots, the same frustration of feeling like you're doing everything right and getting nowhere. Here's what's almost certainly never been said to you in that vet's office. The skin is not where this problem starts. Berry research from the American Journal of Veterinary Research confirmed that the integrity of the intestinal barrier in dogs plays a direct role, including the kind that shows up on the skin. When that barrier begins to break down, and it does break down over years of processed food, and inflammatory compounds that should stay in the gut begin leaking into the bloodstream. The immune system, now confronted with these circulating irritants, mounts a chronic low-grade response. That response surfaces on the skin. It drives the itching. It drives the flare-ups. And no amount of medicated shampoo addresses it, because the problem is happening 3 feet away from where you're applying the solution. The beneficial bacteria found in quality plain yogurt directly support intestinal barrier repair. 2 tablespoons of plain, full-fat, unsweetened yogurt, stirred into your dog's food 3 times a week, begins rebuilding from the inside what years of ultra-processed feeding has quietly. You need to check the label carefully here. No xylitol, no fruit flavoring, no sweetener of any kind. Plain, full fat. That's it. This isn't an overnight fix. You're looking at 6 to 8 weeks before you'll see meaningful change in a dog with long-standing skin issues. But when the change comes, it tends to be sustained, because you've addressed the actual root cause rather than the surface it's expressing through. Most owners are 1 grocery store trip away from starting this, and they've been treating the symptom instead for years. Food number 4, blueberries. Let's talk about something that's happening to your dog's brain right now, silently, every single day, and what you can do about it starting this week. You've probably noticed your dog sleeping more than they used to. Maybe they're a little slower to respond when you call them. Maybe they seem less sharp, less present, less there than they were a few years ago. Most owners look at this and say that's just getting older, and sometimes it is, but sometimes what looks like aging is actually accumulated oxidative damage, and those are 2 very different things, because one of them is addressable. Free radicals are unstable molecules generated by normal cellular function, stress, illness, and environmental exposure. Every single day your dog is alive, these molecules are attacking their cells. The brain is particularly vulnerable because of how metabolically active it is. It burns through antioxidant defenses faster than almost any other organ. When the damage compounds over years without adequate nutritional defense, what you see is a dog who sleeps more, responds less, and fades earlier than they needed to. Blueberries contain anthocyanins, plant compounds that neutralize free radical damage before it becomes permanent. Researchers studying sled dogs found dramatically lower oxidative stress markers after intense physical exertion when blueberries were included in their diet. Dogs fed blueberries regularly showed sharper cognitive responses, stronger immune function, and measurably slower overall aging. This isn't fringe research. This is a direct nutritional defense against one of the primary biological mechanisms of early decline. A small handful of fresh or frozen blueberries 3 to 4 times a week, tossed as a treat, mixed into plain yogurt, added to their bowl. There is no complicated preparation here. The barrier between your dog having this protection and not having it is a single decision at the grocery store. Food number 5, oats. If this is already making you think differently about what your dog's body actually needs versus what you've been led to believe it's getting, tap subscribe. Every week at Perfect Living we go this deep, and the next video is one you genuinely don't want to miss. Now let's talk about the one that's hardest to think about because there's no warning system for it. And that's exactly why it matters so much. Heart disease is the second leading cause of death in older dogs, not the fifth, not a rare outlier, the second. And the reason most owners never see it coming is that it develops in complete silence for years. There is no symptom, no limping, no visible change, no behavior shift that tells you something is wrong. A dog can be carrying significant cardiac deterioration and still be running in the garden, still greeting you at the door, still looking perfectly fine, right up until they're not. By the time a vet detects a murmur at a routine checkup, the structural changes inside that heart have typically been compounding for a long time. And this is not said to frighten you. It's said because the window for dietary prevention is real, it's long, and most owners don't know it exists. Oats are one of the richest dietary sources of beta-glucan, a soluble fiber compound that research published in the British Journal of Nutrition found significantly reduces cardiovascular inflammation, and it doesn't reverse damage that's already severe. What it does is support the heart's normal function to reduce the inflammatory load it operates under and contribute to the kind of cardiovascular environment where deterioration happens more slowly. 2 to 3 tablespoons of plain cooked oats, no sugar, no flavoring, no instant packets with added ingredients, stirred into meals twice a week. The cost is negligible. The preparation takes minutes, and the organ it's protecting is the one that, if it fails, ends everything. Most owners who've lost a dog to cardiac disease would give anything to have known this earlier. You know it now. Food number 6, turmeric. And now we get to the one that might be the most practically useful thing in this entire video. It's not about a new food, it's about doing something you may have already tried, but doing it correctly for the first time. You've probably heard about turmeric for dogs. Maybe you tried it, bought a supplement, added the powder, waited a few weeks, and quietly concluded it didn't really do much. Then bought a different brand, tried again, same result. And in the background, your dog is still moving stiffly in the mornings, still hesitating before the stairs, stay still, carrying the kind of daily discomfort that prescription anti-inflammatories would address, but that you're understandably wary of long-term. Here's what nobody told, and this single piece of information explains every failed turmeric attempt. Curcumin, the active anti-inflammatory compound in turmeric, is nearly biologically useless on its own. Your dog's gut cannot absorb it in any meaningful quantity without a specific cofactor. That cofactor is piperine, the active compound in black pepper. Research published in Phytotherapy Researchers confirmed that piperine increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%, not 20%, not double, 2,000%. And virtually every standalone turmeric supplement on the market, including the $40 ones that promise joint support, is sold without this NAT information clearly attached to it. The same research confirmed that curcumin, when properly absorbed, reduces inflammatory cytokines in arthritic dogs at levels that rival prescription NSAIDs. The same mechanism, comparable potency. Without the kidney strain, without the liver burden, without the long-term organ concern that makes vets quietly anxious every time they renew an NSAID prescription for a senior dog. A quarter teaspoon of turmeric with a small pinch of black pepper, mixed into food with a small amount of olive oil, because curcumin is fat-soluble and the fat further enhances absorption 3 times a week. That 3-ingredient combination costs less than $5 a month. The dog you've watched go stiff overnight. The one who takes longer to get up off the floor than they used to. This is the version of their joint support that their body can actually use. Every failed turmeric trial wasn't a failure of the ingredient, it was a failure of the delivery. Now you have the complete picture. Food number 7, broccoli. Now this next one is harder to think about, but it's important enough that staying comfortable and skipping it would be a disservice to every dog owner watching. Studies suggest that nearly 50% of dogs over the age of 10 will develop cancer, half. And while genetics play a role that no diet can fully override, the biochemical environment those cells exist in is something nutrition directly influences, including the activation of the body's own tumor-suppressing enzyme pathways. Broccoli contains a compound called sulforaphane. Research published in Cancer Prevention Research found that sulforaphane activates natural detoxification processes inside mammalian cells that neutralize carcinogens at the DNA level before abnormal growth has the opportunity to take hold. This isn't a claim that broccoli cures cancer. It's a claim, and a well-researched one, that sulforaphane creates a cellular environment where cancer has a harder time getting started. The dog sleeping next to you tonight has cells dividing continuously. Every division is an opportunity for error, and every error that goes uncorrected is a step toward something you don't want to see. Most owners who have heard that statistic, 50% of dogs over 10, have never once been told that there is a naturally occurring compound, T vegetable they already walk past in the supermarket every week, that works at the level where that prevention actually happens. Small florets, slightly steamed rather than boiled. Steaming preserves sulforaphane far more effectively than boiling does, 2 to 3 times a week. Keep the total quantity under 10% of their daily food intake, because large amounts of broccoli will cause digestive upset. This isn't a dramatic intervention, it's a quiet, consistent one, the kind that builds a different outcome over years rather than weeks. Food number 8, bone broth. Let's shift to something that fixes a problem most owners didn't realize was nutritional at all. You've watched your dog slow down, not dramatically, not suddenly, but gradually, the way a tide goes out. The morning stretch that takes a little longer. The pause before jumping into the car. The stairs taken one careful step at a time when they used to be taken in a single bound, and you've told yourself they're getting older. This is just what getting older looks like. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's something else entirely. Sometimes it's a collagen deficit that has been quietly progressing for years without a name. Cartilage, the tissue that cushions your dog's joints, is primarily made of collagen. As dogs age, collagen synthesis slows, and if the diet doesn't compensate, cartilage begins to break down faster than the body can rebuild it. The gut lining, which is also heavily collagen dependent, thins alongside it. Both processes accelerate when the diet is primarily ultra-processed food, which provides almost no dietary collagen in any bioavailable form. Nutrients confirm that dietary collagen peptides directly support cartilage regeneration and reduce joint degradation markers in aging mammals. Homemade bone broth, plain, no onion, no garlic, no added sodium, just raw bones and water simmered for 4 or more hours, is one of the richest bioavailable sources of collagen, glycine. These are not synthetic compounds added to a supplement. They are the actual structural materials the body uses to rebuild what time and processed feeding have been eroding. 3 times a week, pea poured warm over their regular food. A batch takes an afternoon to make and freezes beautifully in portions. The morning hesitation you've been calling age, for some dogs, it genuinely isn't. It's a structural deficit that real food can begin addressing. Not reversing decades of damage overnight, but giving the body the raw materials it's been asking for and not receiving. Food number 9, carrots. Here's one that most owners have already been accidentally doing right. They just haven't been doing enough of it. And they've never known why it matters beyond the crunch. You've handed your dog a carrot. They've loved it. You felt vaguely virtuous, low calorie, natural, no guilt. And then you went right back to the same bowl of kibble and didn't think much more about it. The carrot was doing more than you knew. Carrots are one of the richest dietary sources of beta-carotene on the planet, a compound the body converts into vitamin A, which plays a direct role in immune defense, cellular repair, and eye health. Daddy research published in Veterinary Immunology and Immunopathology found that dogs with adequate vitamin A levels demonstrated significantly stronger immune responses to infections and environmental stressors. Your dog encounters bacteria, airborne toxins, body and oxidative damage every single day on their walk, in your garden, from the surfaces they sniff and lick. Their immune system is working constantly, and most commercial dog foods give it very little of real nutritional value to work with. The carrots also act as a natural dental abrasive. The mechanical action of chewing a raw carrot removes plaque along the gum line in a way that a dental chew or a brushing session twice a week simply doesn't replicate daily. Dental disease is one of the most underestimated contributors to systemic health decline in dogs. Bacteria from infected gum tissue enter the bloodstream and create an inflammatory burden on the heart, kidneys, and liver over time. One medium raw carrot, 3 to 4 times a week. Something you've already been doing right. Now you know why to keep doing it and why it genuinely matters. Food number 10, sweet potato. And then there's this one, the one that involves a food most owners have reflexively kept away from their dog. Based on a single half-remembered piece of advice that was never the whole story. You've heard carbs are bad. Grain-free is better. Processed carbohydrates spike blood sugar, cause inflammation, contribute to weight gain. And somewhere in that conversation, top sweet potato got swept up in the same rejection, which is one of the more unfortunate nutritional overcorrections in modern dog feeding. Complex carbohydrates from whole food sources are a different biological entity from the grain-based fillers used in low-quality commercial kibble. Research from the Journal of Animal Physiology and Animal Nutrition confirmed that complex carbohydrates from whole food sources like sweet potato provide dogs with more sustained energy and better metabolic efficiency than refined grain fillers. Sweet potatoes are loaded with beta-carotene, a combination that supports healthy nerve function, red blood cell production, and sustained cellular energy. Better energy means more movement. More movement means stronger muscle and joint integrity. Stronger muscle and joint integrity means slower physical decline across every system that depends on them. It's a chain that starts with a vegetable you can bake in your oven for almost nothing. 2 tablespoons of plain cooked sweet potato, no butter, no brown sugar, 2 to 3 times a week. That's the entire ask. Food number 11, extra virgin olive oil. And finally, the one that you need to write down, because it's the simplest thing on this entire list, and it works on 4 aging pathways at the same time. 5's research published in the Journal of Proteome Research identified oleocanthal, the primary polyphenol in high-quality extra virgin olive oil, as an inhibitor of the exact same inflammatory enzymes targeted by ibuprofen. Same mechanism, comparable potency, with none of the gastrointestinal damage, none of the long-term organ burden that makes anti-inflammatory medications a calculated risk rather than a comfortable long-term solution. 1 teaspoon drizzled over your dog's food 3 to 4 times a week reduces systemic inflammation, supports cardiovascular function, protects the brain against oxidative deterioration, and improves coat condition simultaneously from a single ingredient that costs less than $3 a week. 4 of the most critical aging pathways in your dog's body, 1 teaspoon, a few times a week. It also serves a practical purpose we haven't mentioned yet. It's the fat carrier that makes the turmeric and black pepper combination work. 1 teaspoon of olive oil, a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, a small pinch of black pepper, stirred into food 3 times a week. That single addition is doing more for your dog's joints, inflammatory load, brain, and cardiovascular system than most supplement stacks you'll find in a pet store at 10 times the cost. So here is what 11 foods, added thoughtfully and consistently, actually looks like in practice, because this isn't about overhauling your dog's entire diet overnight. It's about the accumulation of small intentional choices made over weeks and months, a small sardine or cooked salmon twice a week, an egg 3 times a week, plain yogurt stirred into meals 3 times a week, a handful of blueberries a few times a week, plain oats twice a week, turmeric, black pepper, and olive oil 3 times a week, lightly steamed broccoli 2 to 3 times a week, bone broth poured over food 3 times a week, sweet potato twice a week, raw carrots 3 to 4 times a week, and 1 teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil a few times a week over everything. None of this requires a second bowl. routine of it requires cooking set meals. These are additions and substitutions, small amounts mixed into what your dog already eats, gradually introduced over 2 to 3 weeks so their digestive system adjusts without disruption. The dog who is already loved is always the starting point here. This isn't about correcting a failure. It's about knowing more than the label ever told you and using that knowledge to give a dog who trusts you completely just a little more of what their body was always asking for. That's the whole thing. That's all this ever was. You came into this video trusting the label. Trusting that if the bag said salmon, your dog was getting salmon. If it said joint support, their joints were supported. That wasn't naivety. That was reasonable faith in a system that was never fully honest with you. What you know now is different. You know that the form food takes changes everything. That your dog's gut barrier is the real origin of half the skin problems you've been treating on the surface. That turmeric without black pepper is an incomplete sentence. That the heart disease coming for older dogs arrives without a single warning. Oats twice a week is one of the quietest, most powerful things you can do about it right now. And that the collagen your dog's joints have been asking for was never in the supplement, it was in the pot, 4 hours of simmering away. Ton of this changes how much you already love your dog. It just gives that love somewhere more specific to go. So here's the one thing to try today, not tomorrow, not after a big shop. Tonight, before you fill their bowl, teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil. That's it. 4 aging pathways, 1 teaspoon. It takes 3 seconds and it costs almost nothing. Start there. Let everything else follow in its own time. If this felt like the kind of conversation you want to keep having, we'd love to have you as part of the Perfect Living community. Hit subscribe. Every week we bring you the research, the real talk, and the practical steps that make a genuine difference to the dog who's been waiting by the door for you all day. They trust you completely, and you're already doing right by them, just now a little more.